Hello, and welcome to Crew Call, the Below the Line podcast by, for, and about the crew. Today's guest is an Emmy-nominated editor who's been around since the days of literal film cutting. Welcome, Scott Powell. Well, let's just jump in and get started. Tell me when you first got started as an editor.
1984. At CBS on Radford, and MTM had a whole bunch of shows there. And I got in as an apprentice editor, and what I did was put code numbers on the film and the track. Back then we were cutting and splicing film, and I ran these ink machines that stamped these little code numbers on the film and identical code numbers on the track to keep them in sync. It's sort of a boring process, but that and just, schlepping the reels of film to the screening room and then breaking them down. And, it was a whole process that's way, way different than the way we do it now. So back then we, in the union, we had to work our way through the ranks, an apprentice and an assistant, and you weren't allowed to be an editor until you were 5 years in the union. That's the way I did it, the old-fashioned work through the ranks way.
So now, for our listeners, what does MTM stand for?
Mary Tyler Moore.
Ah, Mary Tyler Moore Show. Yeah. How fun.
Yes.
Now, did you do anything before? Like, how did you get into the editing as the apprentice? What did you do before that? Did you start somewhere in another department, or did you come from school? How did you get that job?
Well, I went to college in theater arts and photography, and I grew up around it. My dad and also my grandparents were in the picture business, so I'm third generation. And I always kind of knew I wanted to be either a cameraman or an editor. And at the time I needed a job, this apprentice editor gig came up. My dad was he was a studio executive, and he helped get me my first job.
Nice. Very nice. But you still had to work your way up, though. So,
yeah, he had nothing to do with any of my promotions, and he never hired me himself until I had proven myself many times over.
Nice. Can you kind of describe for us what your job is exactly? What's your typical day as an editor?
Well, why don't I take you to the beginning? When I first start on an episode, I get the dailies. I get the film that they had shot the previous day. They take about 8 or 9 days to shoot a 1-hour drama like this. And so they send me the film after they shoot a day, and I just edit one scene at a time, just put it together how I see, how I think the story should be told. And I do my best to keep with camera, and a couple days after they're done shooting, I need to run the whole show with music and sound effects, and pretty complete as I can get it for the director. And then the director has 4 days if he needs it to make his adjustments. Then I run it for the producer, and then they've got a week or two, and then the studio executives, the network executives get in on it, and it takes about 3 weeks beyond the couple of weeks of shooting. So there are 3 of us on the show. It basically takes about 3 times as long to go through the whole editing process as it does to shoot. So to keep up, we rotate through the episodes. I just described my typical month, not day. But my typical day is I come in, and my assistant is loading and organizing the film that they had shot the previous day for me, and he sets up bins and sets up the project for me, and I just go for it. I just start at the top of a scene and start putting it together. And I'm on my own for the whole duration of the shoot, plus a couple of days, and then other people get in on it and make their adjustments.
So do you get to make further adjustments? Like, does it goes you first, and then the other people have their say as to what they want, but do you get any final say in it?
It's hopefully a collaboration. It's they come in and they tell me, well, I'm not crazy about this actor. Can we minimize him? And I love this guy. Can we have more of that? And we need to tell a little more of this side of the story. And it's they usually give me general notes. They don't tell. They usually don't tell me to take 3 frames off that cut. It's more of a collaboration than that.
Well, now with your expertise, though, do they ever trust you as far as like what you think the scene should look like? Like, okay, you're watching the film, you're watching what's been shot. Do you like say, well, you know what, this is going to look better because this comes in over here and blah blah blah? Do they take your advice on anything? Or
sure, yes, they do.
Okay,
and I get a first shot at how I think it should be. So if they want to know what I think, they can look at my first cut, basically.
Well, now, what is your creative process? Like, what do you look for when you're looking at this film?
Well, our job really is to extract the greatest potential from the film that's dropped in our laps. The actors, we, really shape their performance. They usually give you a range.
Okay.
A typical scene will have lots and lots of options. Both different camera angles and performances. An actor may go in and start a scene with a lot of attitude on it and a lot of aggression, and then the director may say, "Okay, let's calm that down a little bit," and then make further adjustments. So I've got a whole range of performances. So what I'm doing is, just determining how I think it should be, and I just take one line reading at a time and construct the whole scene.
Is there any time that you've had to deal with like where something just does not work? Like there's nothing that goes smoothly and you're kind of stuck with?
I hate to throw up red flags, I have called concerned about a certain performance, called the set and talked to the director, and usually he says, no, that's what's intended. A lot of the time, you read the script and you get a visual image in your head on what you think it should be, and it's never exactly that way. And so, a lot of times sometimes things don't work in your first opinion of it. So you've got to sort of reinvent it and try and make lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah. So, did any of these like situations like drastically change a story or a scene, or you just had to go with what they wanted?
It depends on where you're working. I was on 24 for 8 seasons, and you got to really earn their trust. So this is my second season on Person of Interest. I'm getting to a point of being well trusted, so I can make these judgment calls.
Okay.
But if it's a drastic judgment call, I need to let someone know, because if you let it get too far down the line, maybe they're shooting in a certain location and they've got that location for 2 days. And on the first day, you say, you see a problem, you want to give them a call and say, look, you've got this actor, you've got the location. Can you pick up this other line? Because I think we need it. Mm-hmm. And, they'll accommodate me if they can, or they can disagree and say, nah, I think we've got what we need.
Now, speaking of 24, I know that it's like real time nature of the show with all the split screens. How much did that style affect your job? Like, how did you decide when to use the split screens?
Well, I kind of do things by gut. Obviously phone calls is what they were really invented for, being in 2 places at once when, a lot of the story took place on the phone, because we had to travel our characters from one place to another. And during the travel time, they had to be playing out scenes, because we couldn't wait for Kiefer to drive a half hour, from Van Nuys to downtown LA and not see him or hear from him. So that's sort of how that was invented. But it was a great tool to be in 2 places at once like that. But you got to do it sparingly, because it would get exhausting and you couldn't keep up with it if you did it all the time. So you had to really feel when to do them and when not to do them. They're also a great punctuation. For instance, if you're playing a scene in multiple frames and then something happens that you really want to punctuate, you go from 4 frames and, the screen cluttered with images to a person's close up on their eyes as they're reacting to a situation. It worked very well for that. As far as the real-time thing, people have always asked, "Wow, isn't that hard to do?" Well, individual scenes play out in real time anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It meant there's certain things we couldn't do. We couldn't do montages, we couldn't do dissolves, time cuts, anything that indicated time passage. We didn't have that in our toolbox.
Right.
But we had a lot of other cool stuff.
So now you worked when they did the splicing, right? In the beginning when it was not on computers. So how much better is it now that it's on a computer and it's not the splicing?
Well, it's a lot better. It was fun. I really enjoyed cutting film and the collaboration between the assistant and the editor and throwing film back and forth. And it was a neat way to learn it.
Mm-hmm.
The transition was painful at first. The first electronic edit systems were videotape based.
Oh, okay.
If you could imagine like 10 VHS decks with time-coded identical material in each, and you tell the computer you want to run this set of 20 cuts, and the machines would start rattling away and queuing up, so they would play the cuts for you. The decks would sort of leapfrog one another to play this series of cuts for you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can picture that, but in the first show I did on one of those was a Western. They sold me a bill of goods and said, no, this will work great. So I learned how to use it on a dialogue show, a Talking Heads. It was an Aaron Spelling show. And then I put it to work on this Western. And when you're cutting these gun battles and, quick 10-frame cuts and sound effects running under it, it was more than the machine could handle. I would tell it to, okay, play this sequence of cuts. And it would say, okay, you've got 235 seconds for the machines to queue to play this for you. So, okay, get up and use the bathroom, get a drink of water. Okay, here it comes. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bloop, bloop, misfire. They all start queuing back to the beginning. Oh, my God. One night I left my assistant there to lay it down on tape so we could show the director the next day. And I left him at 9 at night, and I got back at 9 in the morning, and he was still there trying to make it.
Oh, wow.
Make it lay down. It was crazy. So I was begging to get back on film, But, a couple of years after that, they really got the digital editing down, and now it's fantastic, You can do so much more. We've got lots of layers of audio and video, so we can do visual effects. We can, music, sound effects. We can really put a polished cut together, where back then, if you want to put a phone ring in there, you had to fit it in between dialogue, and all the ambient sound would cut out. And,
yeah.
So it was truly a rough cut when you did it back then. Now we can really, make it look complete.
Right. The sound editing is a whole lot easier on the computer, I take it.
Well, it's doable, period. Back then, you waited till you finished the whole cut.
Oh.
And then the composer would write for it, and the sound editors would start doing their thing with it. Because, we didn't have the means to run that many. We had one picture and one track, and we rattled it through this machine called a moviola that was like a green sewing machine, on a pedestal, and we just have our film in little reels and or little rolls, and just rattle it through there and put grease pencil marks on it, and then physically cut and splice it, and build it out that way.
How did you guys fit in all like the Foley, the dialogue editing? Because I know that now it's just all separate things that are able to put together because you got different tracks. So is that kind of like the same thing that happened back then?
Yes. And that's done by other people. There's a whole other group of sound editors. Once we lock picture,
right?
They use what we do as a template. We put in temp music and we put in temp sound effects, but they're way, way more thorough. Mm-hmm. And the composer will write fresh music for it.
Right.
And they've got hundreds of, they can have 200 layers of audio where we got to keep it 12 or so, or it gets too complex, when you're making picture changes.
Now, did you ever do sound editing, or you strictly did like the visual?
No, just visual.
Okay.
I mean, I never had a job as a sound editor, but I've worked on like documentaries and such where you've got a much smaller crew, and I was it. I did the music editing and the sound editing, and whole different ball game. I was at the same time I was working on 24 with where you have hundreds of crew members and it's a great big budget, and even you get the U.S. military who strafing down with their jets or Marines rappelling down. We've got just endless resources, and at the same time I was doing this family project. It was a documentary on the Medal of Honor. Mm-hmm. And my dad, my stepmother, and one other producer friend, 4 of us put this whole feature-length thing together. And we hired other little 2 or 3 man crews to go out and get interviews once in a while. But basically, we did it, and brought in a composer at the end. And
wow,
and very satisfying, when you do the whole thing on your own. And I used my connections with 24 to get the rest of the post done, the color correction, and the we got a little sound stage, but we just pull it all together ourselves on a shoestring budget, and at the same time, it was working on both of those shows parallel was an interesting study in minimalist and maximalist. Maximalist is a word, I don't know.
Well, it's one now.
Yeah, good.
So how different is it from doing something like that to being on a show? I mean, because like you said, it's kind of easy in a way because you've got full control and you know exactly, and because it is simpler, but you have less people working on it. Does that make it easier and faster to get the job done, or is it easier to do one that has a huge crew and you're just on one part of it and then you don't have control over the rest?
Oh, I don't see a difference in easy or hard.
It's just different.
It's just way different. You get to wear different hats when you're doing a little family project like that, mm-hmm. Which is more fun. That's hard to say too. It's I'm really glad that I do both. I also do little like fundraiser films where I travel down to Costa Rica and I did the photography. I did everything. The sound recording. I just went down there myself and I recruited who I could just to help me, carry things or maybe hold a boom mic or,
right.
And then, I was the cinematographer, the director, the sound recordist, the editor. And I just, I finished the whole project and I passed it to the clients and they said, thank you very much. And, paid me. I didn't charge them much. It was more labor of love, but,
right.
And the big difference there is, I did it myself. I gave it to them. They said, thank you very much. It's great. Whereas usually, my first cut is just getting started. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
A whole bunch of people have to be satisfied with the product before I can actually consider it locked and done.
Yeah.
So I love that part. But I also love collaborating with people. It's good. I strongly recommend diversifying in this business. It's good to have a main focus and a specialty, but when you get out and do other things, I love to get out of the cutting room once in a while.
Yeah. Now, is there any difference between doing a TV show or a feature?
Yes. The only feature I've done is a really low budget one, and I guess there wasn't much difference in there. I guess the difference would be, you have more time and care and commonly money, mm-hmm. but sometimes that's not the case either. So, no, I mean, the as far as the editing goes, I think the skills are the same.
And you're doing the same type of things.
Exactly, yeah. But not having been on a big budget feature, I don't know. You get typecast like any other, any other thing you do. You get typecast.
Right.
I do these, action drama TV shows, and those are the people that hire me.
Hey, that's great, though, because there's lots of them.
Yeah, there's lots of them, and I do enjoy them.
We talked about how it's gotten easier because of digital and computers and probably much faster. But is there anything mm-hmm. that with technology or with stuff that's happening today that has made it harder on you?
Well, just more is expected of us, like the music and sound effects. So no, as far as, when the going gets tough and you got to get in and work long hours, it still happens. It doesn't happen any quicker.
Okay.
The schedules are kind of the same, but, and the other thing is they shoot lots more. I remember in the film days, getting an hour of dailies used to be, oh my God, that's a lot. There's six reels, 6,000-foot reels. That's a lot. That's nothing here.
Yeah, okay, that's true.
I can get 10 hours of dailies.
Okay, so it's about the same amount of time of work then, right?
Yeah, it kind of is. I can cut a scene much faster, but I get a whole bunch more. So it's an even trade-off. The best thing now is just being able to make it look so much better. And incidentally, a show like 24 could not have been done on film because all of those, every time we go to split screens, we would have had to send the film to an optical lab. And they would have had to take a couple of days to do their thing with it, then send it back to us and say, "Ooh, no, that's not right." Send it, it would have taken 2 years to do a season of 24 if we were still on film. It wouldn't have been doable.
How long does it take now to do one episode?
It takes 8 or 9 days to shoot it.
Okay.
And then about 3 weeks to finish what we do with it. And then, I think it takes about 5 weeks per episode.
Okay.
And that's from beginning of photography till the final sound mix. Roughly right about there.
Okay.
So once we're through with it, we have our picture locked. We give it to the composer and the sound editors, and they've got the titling to do, and all that goes down in about a week. It's amazing. The composers write music so fast. I mean, they use existing tracks, and they just they got common themes and stuff, but they got to remix and make it all fit and make it fresh. I'm in awe at the composers these days who can put out such great music, score an entire episode in 1 week.
How did you get typecasted as the action guy? Because I know you said you do all action shows. Was that just by accident, or did you actually want to do it?
Well, 24 really put me there, which is not a bad thing. That 24 actually put me on the map. Before 24, I did a lot of short-lived series or TV movies, and I was always looking for another job every 3-4 months or less. I never had any stability in like an 18-year career until I got on 24, and then that was almost 9 years.
Oh, okay.
Where I didn't need to get any other job, that whole time. And then, from there, people doing similar shows called me,
Okay.
I did a little bit of comedy. I did done the Touched by an Angel pilot in first season. I did a whole bunch of little mini documentary series for Discovery Channel, and that was a lot of fun. That was really a blast. Yeah.
You've done a lot of different things. It's just recently because you were on 24 for a long period of time that now you're typecasted as action, right?
Yep.
Well, it's not a bad thing.
No, it's good. But I'm also typecast in TV. I'd love to do a big feature sometime. But they're doing way fewer of those these days. So I guess I'm in a good place.
What do you suggest to someone that wants to do what you do when they're first starting out? What do you suggest for them?
Schooling is good, and it's my last 2 assistants have had master's degrees. I mean, it's getting more competitive like that. My current assistant got a master's degree at AFI, and a girl I used just recently had a master's degree from USC.
Wow.
Which I don't. I just I learned on the job. Times are really exciting now that most anyone can have an edit system on their computer and shoot video or shoot from their phone and practice. When I was getting started, you couldn't practice at all until you got a job. No one had a Moviola, and we're going to pay to get film printed.
Right.
Digital editing wasn't there, and now most everyone has it stock on their computer.
Yes.
The most important thing is making friends. All my jobs come from my friends. Other editors mainly. Mm-hmm. I can't do this job, but I know this. I got this great friend. He's a good guy, team player. You ought to talk to him. You gotta learn your craft really well, but you also have to be someone that people want to hang out with because you spend a lot of time together.
Right.
And,
long hours.
You want to have fun and, work hard and put out good work.
Okay. Now, how about the rest of the people that you work with that are not an editor? Do you interact with any other people like that are not editors, that are PAs, or they do something else on the show?
Sure. Yeah. What we have, our office here in Burbank, we've got all the writers and who are mostly producers of some level. We've got, we've got our own music editor here and visual effects department. And we've got our post PA, our post coordinator, our associate producer, our co-producer, and our post producer. We got a great big staff of people here, and I interact with all of them, and certainly all the producers because we collaborate. We shoot in New York, so the production crew is all across the country, which is not my favorite situation. What I loved about being on 24 was. We were all under one roof. We had these big buildings. It used to be a pencil factory, and they remodeled it to have all the offices, all the departments, and the stages. The stages were just beyond one wall, so I would walk out and watch them shoot whenever I wanted. If I wanted to talk to the director, now they were on location like 50 or 60% of the time, but and of course after you're on a show that long, you get to know everyone, all the cast members, the prop department, all the different departments. And we had a very generous, great executive producer / director on the show, a guy named John Cassar, who he and his wife would have parties all the time.
Nice.
He lived right around the corner. So we all you just totally bonded at the Cassar parties, and we all became really good friends. We're all looking after for each other to make each other look good, and if an actor or the prop master or anyone wanted to come in and look at something because they needed a match or for any reason, I was all over helping them, and they did the same for me. It's great to be on a great big team like that.
Right. How would they help you? Being that you're kind of you do something way different. You're not on the on the set with them. You're editing. How do they help you? How would PAs help you? How would these other people help?
That's a good question. I mean, the prop guys, I would go out and do some second unit directing. That meant shooting little incidental things that I could do with a double and I didn't need the actors for. And they would make my life a lot easier for that. I could go up to the graphics guy and he would design a little animation that I wanted to play on someone's computer.
Okay.
And then the prop people would have everything I needed. And, as an editor, let's see, I don't know, just being my friend and keeping me company, I guess, is how they help me. I like to be around people more than most editors.
Okay. So now here's the good stuff. You were nominated for 3 Emmys. What was that like?
4.
4. Okay. See, 4.
Well, actually, 3. One year, the last time in 2 different categories, I was nominated for an episode of 24 and also the movie. It's called Redemption. It was a movie. When the writer's strike happened, we had half a season done, and we can't air half a season, and we couldn't, shoot the rest of them in time to get it on the air. So we shot a movie so that we wouldn't have anything on the air for a whole year. You know what I mean? We went to South Africa. I didn't go, but John Cassar went and quite a few crew members and shot this movie there. So so I was nominated for movie and episode of a series. And how was it? It was, I feel incredibly fortunate to have that happen once in my life and happen 4 times. I never won the Emmy, but 4 nominations, I guess. Is that worth 1 win, maybe?
Yeah, I think so.
It's a crazy experience and I appreciate it 100% to, first find out you're nominated.
Right.
Is super exciting. And then, you go to the ceremony and it's scary as hell, you thinking about getting up there in front of all these people. But it was an experience that I'm just really glad I had, multiple times. So I consider myself really fortunate.
So I've heard that one year the winner was a fellow editor on 24. How was that?
Yep.
How was that walking
That's
into
good.
the office the next day? Was it okay?
Well, I got it for him, and I paraded it around, and we sent myself and the crew. The guy who won it never goes to these things. He's just kind of he doesn't like any situation like that. He just avoids it.
Oh, okay.
So didn't go there, and I sent our publicist to go collect it for us. So we paraded it around, and we took a picture with myself and the crew holding the Emmy up with these really pissed off faces on, and we took a picture and we sent it to him. And it's the caption, "We're so happy for you, Dave," and we're all glaring at the camera. A good picture.
So what's the best part of your job?
The best part of my job, I think the best part of my job is treating people to the fruits of their labor. You know, after all the battles are fought over script and the budget and the casting and the production design and all the frustrations of shooting, I get to present the finished product to them. You know, I've had people look at it and cry. You know, it not because it was necessarily because it's a sad scene, but it's a big load off their shoulders to see that it all worked out well. And
Right.
I've had directors jump up out of their chair with excitement. And that stuff is very rewarding.
Yeah.
Of course, I've had my less than spectacular results, but mostly they're pretty happy with it. And I think that's the best part of it.
Right.
To see the completed thing that everyone's worked so hard on, and treat them to that.
Right. You kind of pull it all together and make it come to life.
Yeah, I'm sort of the end of a big funnel of, everyone's work pouring right down to me. I mean, it's also just a very tangible thing. At the end of the day, I can sit back and say, okay, look what I built. This is cool. Whereas, the production crew, I mean, the experience tells them, okay, we got it and this is going to be good. But I can see it right in front of me, and I can report to them, yeah, you got it.
It's nice because you have some form of control over the end product, which is nice because you're putting it together and making it look great. And
yeah, I've got lots of control. Of course, the control can be pulled away from me and said, no. What did you do here? We don't,
Yeah.
Someone could come and sit behind me and say, no, I want you to cut here, and make my life miserable. But
would you say that's the worst part of your job is when someone is doing that and not letting you do what you know is the better thing to do?
It doesn't happen too often, but sometimes, I don't mind a bunch of people coming in and telling me what to do or collaborating with me if it gets better. Sometimes you can see it gets different, but it gets clunkier. And then, occasionally even I'll watch something on the air and go, shit, man.
Yeah.
This was a great scene and now it's this. That's the worst part, but that doesn't happen too often. And also, as I talked about loving adventure, I've worked on a lot of things in the past, TV movies and such, where, they were shot at these exotic locations. And, the crew comes back and they're in the room with me talking about these great adventures they've been on. And I'm just, shit, man, I've been here in Burbank the whole time in this dark room.
Well, Scott, you just have to say, look, as an editor, I need to be there with you guys because I need to feel it. I need to feel
right.
it.
And that's another good thing about features. A lot of features, they bring an editor and, cart them around to all the locations. I'd love that. I love to travel. And recently, as I mentioned, I have had cool opportunities. And my office isn't so dark. I've got a nice office now with a big window and a balcony. So
oh, nice.
Things have improved.
Have you ever saved a scene or episode in the edit? Like something went wrong on set, they didn't get all the shots, but you made it work. And did you get credit for it, by the way?
A long time ago when I was an assistant, this is one example, and I think I have. Like I talked about making lemonades out of lemons. Sometimes it doesn't work the way intended, so you got to make it work a different way. I was working on this show. It was a car chase. I can't remember, so many years ago. I can't remember exactly what went wrong, but I came up with the idea to make it a foot chase because we had the material to make to make something different out of it. That what was intended, and everyone was, grieving over this situation they were in, and there were 3 editors in the room with the director and a producer, and I got them started on this path to make something different out of it. And I was an assistant editor at the time, cut to a couple of years later, and this director remembered that, and he hired me on this TV movie, this big Western, which was a huge break for me. And it was really nice of this director to remember me like that. He said I was the only one who knew what he was talking about in that room, and then I came up with a really good idea. So you got to just stay open-minded. I try to stay open-minded and not lean on the script too heavy.
Okay.
And keep my eyes open to hidden gems that might you might not be looking for if you got your face in the script and trying to get every detail that's in the script. You see. I commonly, after I cut a scene, I read through the script to make sure I didn't miss anything and I got the basics of what they intended.
Right.
But while I'm cutting, I try and let the images sort of tell me what to do.
Okay.
I want to get obviously the best stuff in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I look for the great shots and I just start dropping them in and making them work.
Great. Now, is there anything that you would do differently? If you could change anything in the business right now, is there anything that you would change about your job or to make it easier or anything that you think might be better in the long run for editing?
I give myself a raise.
Yes, that's a good one.
Better for editing. That's a tough question. It's about the people, you're collaborating with. It's about the minds more than the gear or the process. It's it's about the visions, really.
Okay.
And it's always been, as technology changes, it's you're still doing basically the same thing. You're just you have different tools is all. So I can't think of what I would change. I would go on location more and
Well, Scott, that is it. Thank you so much for spending this time with us and giving us some little tidbits of information and some of your experience.
Oh, my pleasure. This is a really cool idea. I listened to the stunt woman's interview. She's brilliant, and that was a great interview she gave. I learned some stuff about
Oh yeah.
With that interview. That was great.
Alrighty. Well, thank you so much, Scott. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
And that's it for Crew Call. If you'd like to support the podcast, remember to click the Amazon link on the Tappa website before you go shopping. It doesn't cost you anything, and Amazon gives us a little kickback. Everyone wins. And if you like what you've heard, please consider leaving us a review on iTunes. Good or bad, we really appreciate the feedback. Thanks again to Scott Powell for his insight into the editorial process. Tune in next week for line producer Ryan Murphy.